All right, welcome back everybody to another English 370 class. Today we are talking about more topics in semantics. We're continuing on our semantics train. This is kind of the second major lecture that we're going to be doing in semantics. In the first main lecture, what we talked about was truth conditions. So we covered what a particular viewpoint of meaning of sentences or propositions, which was the truth conditions, what the world needs to look like in order for these sentences to be true or false, etc. And we also looked at the idea of compositionality, the idea that the meaning of a sentence could be made up from the meaning of the individual words in the sentence. Today, what we're going to be looking at is a little bit different. It's building on the stuff that we did before. It's building on this idea of truth conditions. And instead of looking at truth conditions of individual sentences, now we're going to see that there are relationships between sentences, between these propositions. And we're going to look at two particular arrangements or relationships that propositions can hold with one another. So we're going to be looking at pairs of sentences here a lot. A lot of what we're going to be doing today is a pair of sentences, an A sentence and a B sentence. And we'll see that the two types of relationships we find here are entailments and presuppositions. So without further ado, let's hop right into entailments and see what we're dealing with. Maybe. There we go. Cool. So like I said, the first relationship that we're going to be looking at between pairs of sentences, sentence A and a sentence B. So in example 1 here, the A sentence is Princess Diana was killed in a car accident. And the B sentence is Princess Diana is dead. Sorry for the morbidity here on a Monday morning. Hopefully that's not too disturbing, but Fido is a dog is our next example, and the B sentence there is Fido is an animal. And with particular respect to the entailment relationship, definitionally, what we're going to say is that for one sentence to entail the other sentence, for sentence A to entail sentence B, it has to be the case that whenever sentence A is true, sentence B must be true as well. So if it were the case that in fact Princess Diana was killed in a car accident, we say this is true. If that's true, we know that to be true, then sentence B must be true, right? If we know that Princess Diana was killed in a car accident, in fact we do, then we can deduce, or it's entailed that Princess Diana is dead right now. That's also true. Similarly with example 2, the A sentence, if we know, this one's a little bit easier to see. With Princess Diana, it's very specific, so there's kind of a reality to that, but we want to kind of abstract away from that reality and say, if sentence 1A, Princess Diana was killed in a car accident is true, then B must be true. And this makes more sense when we get more generic, like in sentence 2A, Fido is a dog. Well, we don't exactly know which Fido we're talking about, but we know that if Fido is in fact a dog, then we also know, if that's true, then sentence B, Fido is an animal, must also be true. That's entailment. If we know that sentence A is true, sentence B we also know is true. So even where sentence 2A, we don't even know who Fido is, what Fido is, etc., etc. We don't even care. If somebody can tell us that Fido is a dog, we don't even have to know anything else about Fido, we would still know that Fido is an animal. We still know that must be true. It's kind of these ideas about meaning relationships and the way that the world works such that sentence A entails sentence B. Cool. Let's flip that a little bit. Starting with sentence 2 here, when A is false, right? So for entailments, what we said was, flip it back here. What we said was when A is true right here. Oh, you can't actually see my cursor for some reason today. I'm cursorless. Let me try this. Hey, no, I got a cursor back. when sentence A is true, sentence B has to be true. We know that to be the case. However, if sentence A is false, do we know anything about sentence B? Does that tell us anything about sentence B? That's the question I want you to ask yourself right now. So if Fido is a dog is false, so we know that Fido is in fact not a dog. Fido isn't a dog here. This is false. Is Fido still an animal? Do we know that to be true or not? Think about it. And the answer is we don't know. We don't know. It's not the case that B is also false. Fido's not a dog, right? Fido as a dog is false. That means Fido's not a dog. But Fido could be an iguana, in which case Fido would still be an animal. We don't know that. We don't have enough information. So when A is true, B is true. When A is false, we don't know what B is. We just don't know. If Princess Diana was in fact not killed in a car accident, do we know whether she's dead or alive? No, she could have died of old age, could have died of whatever, right? She could have died in a different way, or she could still be alive, who knows? Right? As soon as this becomes false, we just don't know. So it's important to realize that it's a true relationship here, but when it's false for A, we just don't know. That's entailments. That's how entailments work. That's the relationship between these two sentences, A and B. If A is true, B is true. If A is false, well, we don't know. That's relationship number one. Relationship number two is presuppositions. Presuppositions look very similar on the surface, which makes them hard to tease apart from entailments, but they're different. Right? And we can see a little bit of this difference in the definition, but it'll make more sense when we go over examples. The definition here is for A to have a truth value at all, B must be true. So if it makes sense to say that A is true or false at all, B must be true. B must be true. Right. Take a look at these sentences, and I think that will make more sense. We're going to be going this. Entailments and presuppositions are our topic for today, so we're going to take a little bit of time with these. For 3A, my mother is coming to visit. If you know that my mother is coming to visit, if that's true, say you know that's true, hypothesis, you know this is true, I have to have a mother for that to be true, right? If my mother is coming to visit, I must have a mother. That's true. Similarly, think about this, the King of France is bald. If that's a true statement, then there has to be a King of France, right? For A to be true, and to have a truth value, B must be true. It must be the case that we already know there's a King of France in order to assess the King of France's baldness. My mother has to be established kind of as true in order for my mother to be coming or not coming to visit to have it make any sense at all. So on the surface here, we have this relationship, it seems, of true and true for A and B, and true for A and B, which looks very much like this entailment relationship, where we had true and true and true and true. But we'll find that we can tease these apart. This is in fact not the same relationship, and we'll see why. Here's one place where things change, and we get to see the difference between presuppositions and entailments. With entailments, when A was false, we had no idea about B. If we didn't know Fido was a dog, we couldn't say whether he was an animal or not. Think about these sentences. When we make the A sentence of a presupposition false, let's check out what happens to sentence B. If we know that my mother is in fact not coming to visit, my mother is not coming to visit, that's false. My mother is coming to visit is false. She's not. Do I still have a mother? I do. She's just not coming to visit, right? For this to make any sense, for it even to make sense that my mother is coming to visit is a false sentence, I still have to have a mother, right? Or if I assert, aha, the King of France is bald, and you say, false, the King of France is in fact not bald. Nevertheless, we both agree that there is a King of France. Whether he's bald or not is in question, but his existence is not in question. So here we see one key difference between entailments and presuppositions. Now, hopefully this definition makes a little bit more sense. For A to even have a truth value, true or false, doesn't matter, B must be true. Right? Think about, one way you can think about this is if you say like the King of France is bald and there isn't a King of France, it just makes this A sentence a weird thing to say. It's not like you're lying, right? The King of America is bald. Is that true or false? Like, it's not really, it doesn't have a truth value. You can't assess it because there isn't a King of America. I'll abstain from political commentary right now. There isn't a King of America, right? So that sentence wouldn't make sense. But if we say the King of France is bald, we know like there must be a King of France. Rewind this if that doesn't make sense. I'm going to keep going. Or send me an email. Rewind it first if it doesn't make sense. If it still doesn't make sense, send me an email. I'm going to move on. We're going to keep talking about presuppositions and entailments. So you can also just keep listening and see if that takes care of things. We see these kinds of things going on all the time, right? Especially with presuppositions. They have this weird sort of characteristic, this kind of gotcha feature. It's one of the signatures of presuppositions. So say if I ask you right now, student listening or whoever listening to this YouTube video, you must answer the following question, yes or no. And I ask you this. Does your mom know that you failed Introduction to Linguistics? Does your mom know that you failed English 370? Remember, you have to answer yes or no. Choose one in your head. Choose either yes or no. Does your mom know that you failed Intro to Linguistics? How do you answer the question? Well, if you said yes, what are you saying? If you said yes, what you're saying is, yes, my mom knows that I failed Introduction to Linguistics. In this case, did you still fail Intro to Linguistics? You did. Your mom even knows about it. You're very transparent with your parents. That's laudable. But regardless, you failed Introduction to Linguistics. Now, if you answered no, what are you saying, right? Does your mom know that you failed Introduction to Linguistics? No. That means no, she doesn't know that you failed it. But did you still fail Intro to Linguistics? You still failed. Right? She just doesn't know about it now. So there's no possible way you can answer this, yes or no. Both of these answers result in it being the case that you failed Introduction to Linguistics. Right? You have to sort of jump through some extra hoops in order to cancel that presupposition of you failing Introduction to Linguistics. It's a good take-home point for this class. There's no way to not fail Introduction to Linguistics. Obviously joking there. Presupposition. These are presuppositions. The presupposition for this one would be like, you failed Introduction to Linguistics, right? And that has to be true for you to even answer the truth condition of this upper portion. Does your mom know? So we saw again that at first sight, entailments and presuppositions are quite similar, but that there are ways we can tease them apart. One we already kind of hinted at, which is this negation. If you flip the A sentence to be false. If you negate A, we start to see the B sentence behave differently in entailments and presuppositions. In entailments, if you negate A, we just don't know about the truth condition of B anymore. And in presuppositions, even if you negate A, and B is still true. And we'll see that being the case with questions as well. So we're gonna describe this by saying that presuppositions survive negation and entailments don't. Right? Think about these, right? Again, if we change this A sentence, Princess Diana was killed in a car accident, to Princess Diana was not killed in a car accident, oh, then we just don't know about B anymore. If she wasn't killed in a car accident, we just don't know. Where if we change the King of France is bald to the King of France is not bald, is there still a King of France? Yep. Yep. There's still a King of France. So this is a test, right? And this is a test that I'm going to be asking you to perform. I'm going to give you, so you know, kind of give you a look ahead into what you're actually going to have to be doing for this in this class. If I give you a pair of sentences, A and B, which I'm going to give you on your next homework, you're going to have to tell me whether A and B are in an entailment relationship or a presupposition relationship. And the way that you're going to tell me that, you're not just going to tell me, you're going to show me. You're actually going to run the test. And this is one test that you can perform, the negation test. So you'll show me, hey Ross, when I change the A sentence to negate it, X happens to be, making it a Y. So if the X here, I change it with the negation, and now I don't know about B anymore, proving that's an entailment. Or I change the sentence to be a negated form, like the King of France is bald to not bald, and I still think B is true. I still know B is true. Then you're going to tell me that's a presupposition. That's kind of just a quick look at how you actually run these tests. The other test you can run is about questions. And similar to how presuppositions survive negation, doesn't change the B, they also survive questions where entailments does not. So if you change the proposition in A to a question, so you're changing it from Princess Diana was killed in a car accident, that's the proposition, the declarative, to the question form, was Princess Diana killed in a car accident? Do we know if Princess Diana is dead anymore? Now we don't, right? We don't have any evidence of that. The pickle. We're not using, when we are looking at these sentences, we're not assessing how Princess Diana died in real life, right? Which was in fact in a car accident. That's not what we're assessing. What we're assessing is from the information in A, I moved somewhere I didn't mean to. From the information in A, what can you say about B? So in some ways, like, we're trying not to use our real world knowledge about these events, right? So just from this question, was Princess Diana killed in a car accident? What do we know about this? We don't know anything, right? It didn't survive this questioning process. Whereas if we look at this one and we ask, instead of saying, is the King of France bald? Instead of saying the King of France is bald, we ask the question, is the King of France bald? That question only makes sense if there's a King of France. Thus, there is a King of France must still be true if this is a reasonable question to ask. Just from knowing this is a reasonable question, we can say this is true. Presuppositions. Boom. So there's this relationship, right, between these sentences. The entailments don't survive negation and they don't survive questions, and they require the original sentence to be true for us to say anything about B. It's a summary of entailments, a very quick summary. Presuppositions survive negation, survive changing the proposition to a question, and they hold even when the original sentence, the A sentence, is true or false. Boom. So let's do a little practice. We're going to do a little follow along practice, and then we're going to call it there. We're going to cut it. Here, we have the sentence, the green grasshopper. Semantics loves green grasshoppers. I don't know why. But we know what that means, right? We know what the truth conditions of a green grasshopper are now, if you've seen part 1. The green grasshopper stopped jumping up and down. That's sentence A. The green grasshopper stopped jumping up and down. Sentence B is the green grasshopper is not jumping at the moment, is not jumping right now. Note that if we say that we're going to posit that this A sentence is true, the green grasshopper stopped jumping up and down, well then, if that's true, then we know that the green grasshopper is not jumping at the moment, this B sentence, we know that's also true. It has this true-true relationship. But both entailment and presupposition have that true-true relationship. So we can't go from there. We need to run the tests. So we're going to run some tests. First, we're going to run, I forget which one I have up first. So yeah, here's this true-true that I was just talking about. If A is true, B is true. Let's try negation first. So here for negation, remember, we're going to be negating sentence A. So we're going to take the green grasshopper stopped jumping up and down, and we're going to negate it. The green grasshopper didn't stop jumping up and down. That's our new A sentence. That's A prime, if you want to think about it that way. Now, if this is true, if the green grasshopper didn't stop jumping up and down, is it still true that the green grasshopper is not jumping? Nope. 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 Let's ask a question. So it didn't survive the negation, right? We see that it didn't survive the negation. I used a negation in the B. In retrospect, maybe this wasn't the greatest example I could have ever chosen, but regardless, what I want you to see is that when we negated A, this no longer holds. This no longer holds. When we asked a question, now we have a question, right? Did the green grasshopper, so we took the green grasshopper, stop jumping down, this A. Now we're making A double prime, in which we turn it into a question. Did the green grasshopper stop jumping up and down? Just using this A double prime information of did the green grasshopper stop jumping up and down, do we know that the green grasshopper is not jumping? Like, we don't know. Maybe he stopped and he's not jumping right now, in which case this could be true. Or maybe he didn't stop and he's still jumping. This is false. Or maybe, I don't know, what he's doing or whatever else. Whatever else green grasshopper is doing there. Green grasshoppery lives. When we ask this question, we no longer have the necessary information to assess the truth condition of B. Signature hallmark of entailment. Right. The fact that the negation and questioning is changing this B truth value and we don't know about it anymore. Entailment. Boom. That's our sign for entailment. All right. Let's take a new set of sentences. Well, actually just a new B sentence. We're going to keep the A the same. The green grasshopper stopped jumping up and down. Our new B sentence is this. The green grasshopper was jumping at some point ever. Right? This is very abstract. Note that if we say that it's true that the green grasshopper stopped jumping up and down, it must also be true that at some point he was jumping. It's kind of just like how semantics work. In order to stop doing something, you must have at one point been doing it. That's this true relationship. But again, we can't tell if this is entailment or presupposition at this point. We haven't run our handy-dandy tests. Let's do that now. Our new A, we negated it again, the same way we didn't before. This is the same process, right? We're just assessing the changes, reaction, or how it affects sentence B. If we change A and say the green grasshopper didn't stop jumping up and down, he just would not stop jumping up and down. That crazy green grasshopper likes his jumping. Is it true still that the green grasshopper was jumping up and down at some point? Yeah, that's still true, right? In fact, he's still doing it, man. He's still jumping because we negated it. So we know that he's jumped at some point ever. This is different. right? So we've already found a difference. Before, when we negated this one, we found it was no longer true. Now we negate this one, and we find it's true. We're already suspicious of what kind of relationship this is, or we should be suspicious. All right, last test that we're going to do, we're going to change it into a question, and instead of asserting that the green grasshopper stopped jumping up and down, we're going to ask, did the green grasshopper stop jumping up and down? Did that silly guy ever stop? Excuse me. Did that guy ever stop? And then we want to assess, do we know that the green grasshopper was jumping up and down at some point? Yeah, we do, right? For this question to even make sense, he must have been jumping up and down. Whoever asked this question A must have known something about his jumping status, and that status being that he was jumping. So it didn't change, right? This was true with our original sentence. This was true with our negated sentence. B is true with our questioned sentence. It's always true. It's a fundamental, it's a presupposition. That's concretely, like we've been talking about how to find these things, but intuitively how you can think about these things is sentence B is like necessary for sentence A to even make any sense whatsoever, right? It's presupposed. When you ask the question, did the green grasshopper stop jumping up and down? You're presupposing the fact that we both know that the green grasshopper was jumping at some point, right? It's a presupposition. When I ask you the question, does your mom know that you failed Intro to Linguistics? That presupposes this shared knowledge that you failed Intro to Linguistics. That's not up for debate. What's up for debate is whether your mom knows it or not. It's not up for debate, this presupposition of you failing Intro to Linguistics. Where entailments, on the other hand, entailments tell us things about the way that the world is, right? If we go all the way back here, there's just something about being a dog, for sentence A, Fido is a dog, that definitionally makes Fido an animal. It entails his animalhood. A entails B, where in presuppositions, again, like we said, the B sentence is just granted knowledge. It's presupposed presupposition knowledge. That's the intuition that you can hold on to when looking at these relationships. But at the end of the day, don't rely on your intuitions. Do your tests. Do your tests. Do your negation test and do your question test and see how the truth condition of B changes. That's what we're after. We did some practice. Boom. Right. We saw the second one. I don't think I actually showed this slide, but spoiler alert, the second example that we did was presupposition, right? We saw that. These remained true. You can't see because my big head's in the way, but this one's also true. Wrong screen. Okay, I'm not going to mess with that. Tech problems. All right. Sweet. So up to this point, or a really quick recap of semantics and where we've gone so far before we push forward a little bit. We talked about truth conditions, right? What the world has to look like for a sentence to be true or false. Notice that concept is really important to the idea of it, both entailment and presupposition, actually. We are talking about the truth conditions between two propositions, between two statements, between two sentences. We've looked also in semantics that these truth conditions can be derived compositionally, that the idea of what a green grasshopper is this kind of set theory notation of something that's at the intersection of all the green things and all the grasshoppery things, and that slice of intersection is the green grasshoppers. And today what we did is extended these two concepts of truth conditions and compositionality, and we looked at the relationship between different sentences. And we came up with entailment and presupposition. Next time, what we're going to do over the next 2 classes. So we're kind of at the halfway point right now of semantics and pragmatics. And we're kind of wrapping up. You can think of this as the end of our semantics lectures. It's not quite. We're going to keep talking about semantics next time. But we're going to shift our focus and look at a different approach to meaning, different ways to look at meaning. This is a very kind of, particular, possibly stilted, unidimensional view of language. And language does a lot more than just deal in truth conditions and relationships between sentences. There's a lot more going on. There's a lot more substance to language use than just this. This is very important, and it is a fundamental aspect of the way that humans use language, but there's more to it. This isn't the full picture. So over the next 2 classes, we're going to lean heavier into pragmatics, what we actually do with language, and we're going to see that the views of meanings shift a little bit. And hopefully it's a little less technical for these next 2 lectures. And hopefully that's a good reprieve from this kind of set theory notation. All right, well, in that case, I'll let you go. I hope you guys are doing well. It was really nice talking to you all on Friday. Thanks for showing up there. We're going to be doing that again this Friday. So as you're listening to these lectures this week about semantics and pragmatics, come with questions. I'll lecture if I have to on Friday, but really the best use of our time in those Friday sessions is getting the back and forth, asking questions, things like that. So we'll do that. I'll stop here. I'll talk to you guys next time. Have a great day.